There's a rhythm to life at sea. You get up, you eat whatever passes for breakfast in the galley, you work your shift, and you wait. You wait for port, for a call home, for a decent signal. The world shrinks to steel decks and salty wind, to coffee that tastes like diesel and conversations shouted over engines. But it's simple, honest. That's why I loved it. We were on our way to Casablanca from Miami, hauling auto parts and industrial gear. Routine job, nothing fancy. The weather had been good, seas mostly calm, but the comms had been garbage for days. That's what happens out in the Atlantic. You go dark unless the satellite decides to be generous. So when we docked to refuel near the Canary Islands, and the ship's Wi-Fi kicked back on for a brief window, I did what every sailor does. I checked my email. Mostly junk. A coupon from the hardware store, a reminder from my dentist back in Florida, some newsletter I forgot to unsubscribe from. And then I saw it. Subject, we need to talk. From Emily. That title alone hits different when you're 3,000 miles from home and standing under the hum of a floodlight in the middle of a steel corridor. I opened it. It wasn't long. 5 paragraphs, maybe 6. Not a single typo, like she'd gone over it a few times to make sure it read right. Polite. Clinical. She said she'd been doing a lot of thinking. That she'd been lonely. That she needed more than what I could give her. That waiting for my ship to pull in every few months wasn't the kind of life she wanted anymore. And then came the line that felt like a boot to the chest. I've met someone. Someone who's here. Someone who makes me feel seen. The next part made it clear she wasn't just reaching out for a conversation. She'd already filed for divorce. Already talked to a lawyer. Said she hoped I'd understand that it wasn't about blame, but about moving forward. Her words, not mine. I stared at that screen, the glow of it cold in the dim hallway outside the crew quarters. My coffee had gone cold in my hand. I don't remember putting it down, but the next time I looked, it was on the floor, rolling slightly with the sway of the ship. She didn't even ask how I was doing. There was no, I'm sorry. No, this is hard for me too. Just a one-way breakup typed out like an office memo. The other guys were down in the mess, laughing about something on the TV, unaware the world had just shifted sideways for me. I leaned back against the wall, blinking like it would clear the sting behind my eyes. But nothing changed. The message sat there, unforgiving. Final. I kept rereading one line over and over. Please don't try to talk me out of this. That's the part that got me. Like I'd begged her for anything before. Like I was some burden to be shaken off. I thought back to our last call, about 2 weeks before. She seemed a little off, distracted. Said Pepper, our dog, had chewed up one of the throw pillows again. I laughed and told her I'd bring her back something from Morocco, maybe that spicy perfume she liked or those fancy almonds she used to sneak into her purse on flights. She just said, sure, that sounds nice. I didn't hear it then, but now I could. That distance in her voice. That subtle shift. How long had she been planning this? We'd built a life together. Not perfect, but real. From that first dingy apartment with the leaky faucet to the house we finally bought after 5 years of scraping. I worked double shifts on the docks, hauled freight across oceans, saved every spare dollar while she finished college and got her teaching license. Every step, we walked together. Until apparently, I turned my back and she walked off without me. And now, somewhere out there, back home, she was living a different life. A life I wasn't part of. Maybe she was sitting on our couch, drinking from the mug I got her in New Orleans, while this new guy rubbed her shoulders and told her she was brave for hitting send on that email. Meanwhile, I stood on a swaying steel floor. Still trying to breathe. I didn't tell the crew. Didn't want their sympathy. I just closed the email, tucked my phone back into my pocket, and walked up to the deck. The wind hit hard up there. Cold and fast. But I needed it. Needed something to remind me I was still here. Somewhere behind me, the satellite signal blinked out again. Connection lost. Didn't matter. That email was burned into my brain now, but so was something else. Something clearer than heartbreak. Resolved. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to chase. But I damn sure wasn't going to roll over and let her rewrite the end of our story without me. This wasn't over. Not yet. It was the morning after I got her email. I hadn't slept. Not a wink. Just lay there on my bunk, staring at the metal ceiling while the hum of the ship's engine buzzed in my bones. I kept hearing her words like they were on loop. Please don't try to talk me out of this. Not that I planned to. But still a hard to turn that kind of thing off when it's carved deep. We were still docked off the Canary Islands for refueling and minor inspections, so the satellite signal was strong enough to check my accounts. Not that I was expecting anything. I just wanted to move some funds over to my backup savings, maybe line up some bills ahead of time. Something productive. Something normal. I logged into our joint account, me and Emily's. And my blood ran cold. Balance, $0. At first, I thought it was a glitch. Spotty signal maybe. I refreshed the page. Nothing changed. Then the transaction history loaded. Withdrawal, $5,000. Withdrawal, $12,000. Transfer, $8,750. One after another. Within a 2-day window. All of them going to the same new account number I didn't recognize. I stared at the screen, my jaw clenching tight enough to ache. This wasn't a shared emergency. This wasn't rent or something we discussed. This was a clean-out job. She hadn't just dipped into the funds. She had gutted the account, down to the penny. I checked our backup. My emergency stash I'd quietly kept separate. Thankfully, that was still there. She hadn't known about that one. But our regular account, the one we used for groceries, utilities, the dog groomer, all of it, was empty. Like it had never been touched by an honest dollar. And she didn't even leave enough for overdraft protection. No note. No warning. Just vacuumed the account like she was making a getaway. I refreshed it again just to be sure, like some desperate part of me hoped it would all undo itself. It didn't. That's when my email pinged. Another message from her. Subject. So you know everything. No greeting. No apology. Just more words that dug in like barbed wire. She wrote, "By now you've probably seen the account transfers. I didn't want to do it this way, but I had to take control of my life. I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. I just needed to act quickly. I'm trying to build something new." He's moved in. I didn't plan on it happening so fast, but it just felt right. I needed support. I couldn't be alone in that house anymore, surrounded by all the memories of you being gone. Support. That's what she called it. The man who walked into my house and made himself comfortable in my life, he was support. I didn't feel angry right away. That came later. What I felt was something emptier. A kind of cold detachment. Numb, like the power had gone out inside me. I read the message again. She said that house, like it was some Airbnb she was stuck in. Like it wasn't the place I put my soul into. I remembered building the fire pit out back with my bare hands, running wire through the attic for better lighting, laying tile in the bathroom after watching YouTube videos for hours. I remembered staining the deck with her in the summer heat while we joked about growing old on rocking chairs. Now it was just her place. Their place. And me? I was thousands of miles away, sitting in a steel cabin on a ship full of strangers, with nothing but bad coffee and better instincts to keep me grounded. The money wasn't even the worst of it. It was the principle, the quiet betrayal of it. She didn't ask, didn't warn. She just reached into our shared pocket and took everything. I didn't cry, didn't throw anything. I just closed the email and sat there, hands clenched tight on my knees, trying to remember how to breathe right. Later that day, I walked the deck until sunset, just pacing, letting the wind hit my face like a slap I could understand. I thought about how many birthdays I'd missed, how many holidays I'd watched over a screen. And I'd done it all to build something for us, to give her something stable. Turns out, she wanted someone present more than someone loyal. Fine. She made her choices. Now it was time for me to make mine. I went back to my cabin and did 2 things. I changed all my account passwords. And I emailed Danny. He picked up within 5 minutes. "Tell me what you need," he said. And I did. Because the storm was just beginning. I've always believed a man is only as strong as the folks he keeps close. Some people collect fair-weather friends, the kind that'll drink your beer and disappear when the road gets rough. Not Danny. Me and Danny met in high school, back when we both had bad haircuts and louder mouths. We bonded over pickup basketball games at the old rec center and long weekends fixing up his dad's busted Chevy. He was the best man at my wedding, and I was at his when he married a girl we all thought was too good for him. Turns out, she wasn't. She left him 2 years in. But through every storm, we stuck close. So, when I stepped out onto the deck with the wind beating against my face and my fist still clenched from that second letter, I knew who to call. I didn't even hesitate. The signal was rough, so I had to stand near the starboard antenna and wait for the bars to flicker green. The crew was down below eating canned stew or playing cards, and I had the deck to myself. My fingers were stiff from the cold, and my voice cracked on the first ring. Danny picked up fast, like he'd been waiting for something to happen. "Hey, man," he said. "Everything okay out there?" I didn't even know where to begin. "No," I said finally. "Not even close." I told him everything, plain and raw. No sugarcoating. I told him about the first letter, about the money vanishing from the accounts, and about the second letter where Emily flat out admitted her new man had moved in. Into my house. Into my life. Danny didn't interrupt. Just let me vent. That's always been his way. He listens first, talks second. When I was done, I could hear him sigh on the other end. That's low, he said. Real damn low. Yeah, I said, my voice quieter now. I need to know what's going on in that house. I need eyes. He didn't skip a beat. What do you need me to do? I need you to get the spare keys from my parents, I said. They still have the set I gave Em last winter when the furnace crapped out and I needed someone to meet the repair guy. Tell them I gave the go-ahead. You sure you want me to get them involved? He asked. They won't ask questions, I said. Just tell them you're helping me keep an eye on the place while I'm at sea. You're the only one I trust with this. All right. That's easy. What else? I glanced around to make sure no one was nearby, even though no one would care. Still, it felt like the kind of thing you say in a whisper. I need you to hire someone, I said. Private eye. Discreet. Knows how to install cameras without making a mess. I want the common areas covered. Living room, kitchen, hallway. No bathrooms, nothing weird. Just legal. Clean. I want everything above board. You want audio, too? If it's legal, yeah. If it's not, don't push it. I don't want this to backfire. I just want the truth. There was a short pause. I imagined Danny pacing around his garage, one hand holding the phone, the other rubbing that scruff on his jaw like he always did when he was thinking something through. All right, he said. I know a guy. He did some work for my cousin a while back. Quiet, professional. Doesn't talk unless he has to. Perfect, I said. I'll pay him whatever he needs. Just take it from my backup account. I'll text you the info. You got it. Anything else? I thought about it for a second. The wind had picked up, and I turned my back to it, shielding the phone as best I could. I just need to know what I'm up against, I said. I can't sit out here guessing anymore. She said he moved in. I want to know who he is, what he does, what kind of man thinks it's fine to shack up in another man's house while he's halfway across the damn world. I get it, Danny said. You want facts, not gossip. You'll have him. Thanks, brother. He didn't say you're welcome. He just said, I got you, like he always did when things got heavy. And I knew he meant it. I ended the call and stared out at the waves, which had started to darken with the setting sun. I could hear the low hum of the ship's engines, steady and strong, carrying us forward through the water. But inside, I felt like I was stuck in place, caught in a fog of betrayal and helplessness. It wasn't just about the money or the house. It was the feeling of being blindsided, of giving someone your best years, your loyalty, your trust, and getting stabbed in the back while you're doing honest work to keep the lights on. Danny would take care of it. I had no doubt. He was the one man who always came through. And once I had the truth in my hands, then I'd know what to do. I wasn't planning revenge. I wasn't planning drama. I was planning clarity. I wanted to see what she looked like when she thought no one was watching. And I'd wait as long as it took to see it. The waiting was the hardest part. Back on the ship, every day felt like a week. I kept working, kept showing up on deck, checking charts, inspecting cargo, handling my shift. Outwardly, I was the same guy. I'd always been quiet, steady, did my job without complaint. But inside, I was chewing glass. Every meal tasted like cardboard. Every sky looked gray. And every hour that passed, I imagined them in my house on my couch, drinking coffee from the mug I brought back from Seattle, leaving their dirty shoes on the rug Emily said we'd never afford, but that I worked overtime to pay for. Danny kept in touch through encrypted emails, short updates. At first, it was just setup stuff, how the guy got the cameras installed without a hitch, using the spare key like he was taking out the trash. He even set one in the garage, right above the tool bench. That one, as it turns out, would be the one that hit me hardest. 12 days after I made that call, I got the first full drop of footage. Danny attached a note that just said, "You were right. I'm sorry, man." The signal was decent that night. I stayed up alone in the navigation bay and watched the clips one by one. They didn't even try to hide it. Not even a little. There she was, Emily, laughing in that easy way she used to when we were still happy, sitting at the kitchen table in one of my old flannel shirts like it belonged to her now. And him? Some guy in his mid-30s, smug as hell, with the kind of lazy confidence you only get from living in another man's house like it's a damn Airbnb. They sat in my living room, feet on the coffee table I built myself from reclaimed barnwood, talking about paint colors and how we should open up the space by knocking out the wall near the stairs. Like I was already a ghost. Then came the garage footage. He was poking around in my tool chest like it was some novelty. Lifting wrenches, holding up my socket set, tossing aside bits and pieces I'd collected over years. Emily walked in and said something I'll never forget. "Most of this junk can go." He was always more sentimental than practical. He. That was me. I was the he now, spoken like an afterthought. I hit pause. My hand was shaking, and my jaw was locked so tight my teeth hurt. That set of tools had been with me since my first apartment. Some were passed down from my grandfather. Others I bought with my first paycheck from the docks. I built furniture with them, fixed up engines, helped neighbors with leaky sinks. They weren't junk. They were mine. I watched more. Them dancing barefoot in the kitchen. Him standing at the stove, wearing my apron, my damn apron, with Grill Sergeant printed on it, a gag gift from my brother. Her feeding him bites of pasta like they were in some Hallmark movie. But what really twisted the knife wasn't their comfort, it was their planning. One clip had them sitting at the dining table going through my paperwork. She pulled out a folder from the cabinet marked taxes and deeds. I never even told her I kept that stuff there. She must have snooped. "See? It's just his name," she said, pointing at the house deed. He shrugged, grinning. "You'll fix that eventually." I closed the laptop. I sat there for a long time. The hum of the ship's systems, the quiet ticking of the clock on the wall, it all blurred into this numb silence. My chest wasn't burning with anger. It felt hollow, like something vital had been scooped out and tossed into the sea. But I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't punch a wall. I just breathed in deep and made the call. First, to Danny. "Send everything to the lawyer," I said. "All of it. All of it." He didn't ask why. He knew. Second, to my captain. I told him I needed to end my contract early. I didn't give details, just said it was a family emergency and I'd pay the penalty myself. The man was decent. He tried to talk me out of it, said I had only 3 weeks left. But I knew I couldn't spend another day drifting while strangers build a new life on top of mine like it was a foundation they bought at auction. I booked the first flight out of Lisbon the moment we hit port. Didn't even go back to the cruise bunk to pack properly. Just grabbed my go bag and kept moving. At the airport, I sat in the terminal staring out at the tarmac, wondering how many other men had sat in that exact seat trying to piece their lives back together. I wasn't thinking revenge. Not yet. I was thinking about the day I bought that house. About how proud Emily was when I handed her the keys, telling her we had a place to grow old. I remembered painting the walls, arguing about tile grout, picking out light fixtures. I remembered believing those memories would mean something. Turns out, they were just placeholders. But now I had the truth. And that meant everything going forward would be on my terms. When I landed back on American soil, the air felt different. Like it carried a weight that had been waiting just for me. I hadn't been stateside in months, and stepping off that plane in my boots, carrying a single duffel bag, I didn't feel like the same man who'd left. Something in me had hardened. Not bitter, just focused. I was done letting things happen to me. It was time to steer the damn ship. I didn't go straight home. There wasn't a bone in my body ready for that. Instead, I grabbed a cab to Danny's place just outside town. He lived in a modest split level with a long gravel driveway and an old oak tree out front. When I got there, he met me at the porch with a six-pack and didn't say a word, just clapped a hand on my shoulder and handed me a cold one. We sat out back, watching the last light disappear behind the tree line, listening to cicadas hum like a broken radio. I didn't cry. I didn't rant. I just sat there, drinking in silence. Danny did the same. That's why I trusted him. He never forced words when there weren't any worth saying. Next morning, I got to work. First order of business, the bank. I spent a couple hours on the phone with fraud and asset recovery departments. I wasn't accusing Emily of stealing yet, but I froze everything that had my name on it, solo or joint. Locked down the backup savings, moved funds into a secure holding account, and revoked her access to anything I could. I'd been too trusting for too long. That was over. Then I called the lawyer. Not some TV commercial kind, but an old-timer named Carl Simmons who used to help my dad with property stuff. The man had a voice like gravel and the patience of a saint. I laid it all out. The footage, the money, the guy in my house. I didn't need sympathy. I needed a plan. "All right," Carl said. "We'll go step by step. First, we lock down your assets. Then we get the house appraised. You said it's still in your name. Title's clean," I said. "Always was. She never wanted it." "Good. That'll help." I spent the next 2 days making appointments. Danny drove me around town in his old F-150 while I kept my head down. We didn't want anyone tipping her off that I was back yet, not until everything was in place. She still thought I was halfway across the world on a ship. The appraiser came out on a Thursday morning. I watched from Danny's passenger seat while he walked the perimeter with his clipboard. My house looked different, somehow smaller. Or maybe just unfamiliar now, like seeing your childhood home after years away. Same siding, same rose bushes, same porch swing I built for her birthday. But the warmth was gone. All I saw now was a structure with a price tag. Once I got the appraisal number, I contacted a real estate agent I trusted, Megan Walters, old friend of the family. She didn't ask questions either, just did her job. We drew up the paperwork to list the house privately, no sign in the yard, no online ads. Just back-channel listings to cash buyers and quiet brokers. I wanted it under contract before Emily even had a whiff of it. She might have been playing house with some other guy, but she forgot who actually owned the roof over their heads. That weekend, while Danny grilled burgers out back, I sat at his kitchen table going through everything: old tax returns, insurance forms, pension plans. I organized every document, every account number, and backed it all up to a drive I could keep on me at all times. I made a list of what was mine, what could be proven, and what she'd tried to touch. By Sunday, I had a binder full of facts and a folder labeled Final Steps. Funny thing about control, it doesn't come with shouting or slamming doors. It comes with clarity. With being the first one to move on the board and knowing the other side doesn't even realize they're in check yet. Every now and then, I'd think about her. Emily. And yeah, the memories tried to break in, laughing while painting the kitchen walls. The time she fell off the step stool hanging Christmas lights and I caught her. Those things didn't just vanish. But I didn't let them live rent-free in my head. They were just echoes now. Soft ones. By Monday morning, everything was in motion. The accounts were locked. The sale was underway. The lawyer had everything he needed to draft the papers. Danny poured me a black coffee and slid a folded sheet across the table. Offer came in on the house, he said. Full price. I looked at the number. It was fair. More than fair. Enough to walk away clean and start over somewhere else if I wanted. Accept it, I said. Let's wrap this up quiet. He nodded. And just like that, the life I'd spent years building with her was turning into paperwork and closing dates. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel powerless. I felt ready. Not for revenge. For resolution. Because no matter how much you hurt, no matter how deep they cut you, nothing feels better than taking back the wheel. It was just past 7 when I made my way up the old sidewalk I'd poured myself with a rented mixer and a busted back. The sun was setting low, casting a warm gold across the neighborhood. It was the kind of evening that should have been peaceful, windows open, porch lights flicking on, kids finishing their bike rides. But not for me. Not tonight. My boots hit the concrete with a slow rhythm. I hadn't been here in months, but every crack in that walkway still felt familiar. Even the rusted garden hose reel by the side of the steps was still there, right where I left it. A small patch of weeds had started creeping around the porch columns. Guess he wasn't much for yard work. I stood at the door for a long second. My house. My name still on the deed. The same red door I painted one hot July weekend when Emily said it needed a pop of color. I remembered holding the brush while she pointed out spots I missed, laughing like we had all the time in the world. That felt like someone else's life now. I knocked once. Firm. No games. The door swung open quicker than I expected. And there he was. The guy. Her new better man. He had a face that looked like it tried too hard to be charming. Sharp jaw, slightly receding hairline, button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled like he thought it made him look rugged. He wasn't prepared to see me. His eyes went wide, his mouth half open like a deer catching headlights. I didn't give him a chance to speak. I stepped forward hard, pushing him back through the doorway. He stumbled into the foyer, off balance, hands up like I had a weapon. I didn't need one. On the ground, I said, my voice low but clear. Don't make me repeat myself. He hesitated. I stepped forward again, locking eyes with him. I said down. He dropped. Not gracefully. More like someone trying to preserve their pride on the way to the floor, which he failed at. He laid flat on the hardwood, hands out, breathing hard. Good. Emily came running in from the kitchen, barefoot and holding a dish towel. Her eyes darted between us. What is this? I pulled the envelope from my coat and held it out. Divorce papers, I said. She didn't take them at first. Just stood there, blinking, lips parting like she might try to explain something. I wasn't interested. You have 3 weeks to get out, I added. The house is under contract. Closing in a month. She finally took the envelope, her hands shaking a little. You sold the house. I nodded once. My house. My name. And I'm done letting you live in it like I'm some old chapter you get to edit. But, wait, can we talk? No, I said, cutting her off. You had time to talk. You used it to move in a stranger. She glanced down at him, still face down on the floor. Get up, she said. He stays down until I'm gone, I said. That's for your safety, not mine. She didn't argue. I looked around the room once. My armchair was gone, replaced by something modern and gray. The bookshelf I built from walnut planks had been rearranged. New pictures on the wall. None of me. Like I'd been erased. It didn't matter. It was already over. I'll have my lawyer send instructions about the rest, I said. Keep anything personal. Sell the rest. I don't care. Just be out in 3 weeks. She tried to speak again, but I turned before she could. I'd heard enough from her through lawyers, letters, and footage. I wasn't about to give her a stage for a closing act. I walked out without slamming the door. Let it shut slow, let the moment sit. As I stepped off the porch, the neighborhood looked the same, but it didn't feel like home anymore. And that was fine. I didn't need it to. Home isn't a house. It's peace. And I was finally headed toward it. I didn't look back. Didn't check if she followed me to the window. Didn't listen for shouting. I got in Danny's truck, started the engine, and pulled away like I was just leaving any other job behind. Because that's all it was now. Just work. Just cleanup. Just closure. But as it turns out, sometimes life throws in a little punctuation mark at the end of your sentence. That punctuation mark came in the form of a hospital visit. For him, not me. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. But I know how things work in a town like ours. Word gets around, and there's always folks who feel a certain way about a man breaking up a marriage, especially when he does it under another man's roof. Especially when that man's been off earning an honest living while the house gets played like a prize he left unattended. Let's just say he had a conversation with some concerned citizens. Not thugs, not gangsters. Regular folks. Guys who've mowed my lawn when I was gone, who lent me jumper cables in the middle of January, who helped me raise a section of fence when the wind knocked it down last spring. Men who don't take kindly to betrayal, especially not the loud, arrogant kind who drinks out of another man's coffee mug while calling it his own. I didn't find out until the next morning. Danny was reading the local paper and snorted at a little blurb on page 6. Your guy had a rough night, he said, sliding the paper across the table. There it was in black and white. Local man hospitalized after alleged altercation outside bar on 3rd Street. Witnesses say the man was approached by 2 individuals and firmly educated on personal boundaries. No arrests were made. Man is recovering with minor injuries. I didn't ask for names. Didn't need confirmation. Just sipped my coffee and moved on to page 7. Meanwhile, I was already neck-deep in legal work. My lawyer, Carl, was methodical and calm, the kind of man who could gut you politely in front of a judge without raising his voice. I handed him everything. The bank alerts, the letters, the footage from the cameras Danny had set up. Every clip, every timestamp, every withdrawal. He organized it into a tight case file that made my ex-wife and her house guest look like amateurs in a game they never should have played. Court was smooth. The judge didn't need convincing. Carl walked them through the footage, Emily admitting she knew what she was doing, planning with the other guy to take what wasn't hers. The moment she transferred the money out of the joint account into a new one in just her name, that was the nail. They called it conspiracy to defraud, and yeah, it sounded dramatic. But I didn't care what it was labeled, as long as it stuck. Emily's lawyer tried to paint it as emotional distress and impulsive decisions made during a turbulent marital period. But the footage didn't lie. The numbers didn't lie. My bank account didn't lie. She ended up with a suspended sentence, no jail time, but a criminal record. Judge told her she was lucky. I figured she was luckier than she deserved. Still, she had to repay what she took. Every dime, plus interest. My accounts were restored within 2 months, down to the penny. But the real twist came when Carl started digging into the new guy. Not for fun, just doing his due diligence, making sure we weren't missing anything. Turned out, the man had more skeletons in his closet than a Halloween store. Identity fraud, check fraud, misuse of business credit. Stuff scattered across 3 states under different aliases. Sloppy work, but enough to make the feds interested once Carl passed it along. We didn't even have to chase it. One day, Carl handed over the evidence. The next, I got a call that the case had been referred to a federal task force already sniffing around him for other things. Within a week, the guy was picked up on a bench warrant and by month's end, he was in custody awaiting trial. I read later that he was looking at 6 years, maybe more if the rest of the charges stuck. I didn't toast to that. Didn't brag. Just took a quiet walk that night and let the breeze hit my face. Justice, real justice, isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with flashing lights or gavel bangs. Sometimes, it shows up in paperwork and patience. Sometimes, in the weight of a man's own mistakes catching up to him after he thought he'd outrun them. Emily tried to reach out once. Just an email. No apology, just confusion. Said she didn't expect things to spiral like this. That she hoped one day we could talk again. I deleted it. Because when you plant a bad seed, you don't get to act surprised when it grows into something bitter. And I was finally done harvesting the damage. Let her figure out the rest. 6 months. That's how long it took to breathe normal again. Not just the kind of breathing that keeps you alive, but the kind that fills your chest with something clean. Something you forgot you missed. After the court was done, after the house closed, and the mess of it all had finally burned out, I took a long look in the mirror one morning and saw someone I barely recognized. Not because I was broken, but because I was finally rebuilding. Piece by piece. I'd moved into a small bungalow down by the water. Nothing fancy, but mine. Had a little porch, 2 rocking chairs, and a view of the inlet where the fishing boats came in just after dawn. Every morning, I'd make black coffee on the old percolator, take it outside, and sit with my boots propped on the railing, watching the fog burn off the waves. It wasn't the house I lost, but it was the home I needed. I picked up work at the port again. Nothing glamorous, just loading and logistics, but it kept my hands busy and my mind grounded. There's something good about honest labor. It doesn't lie. It doesn't cheat. You move the thing from here to there. You get paid. You go home. Simple. It was during one of those dockside mornings, me covered in grease, fixing a busted lift, that I met her. Clara. She worked in customs, short blonde hair tucked under a ball cap, clipboard in one hand, dog treats in the other. She had a rescue mutt named Chief, part retriever, part who knows what, and he rode shotgun in her truck everywhere she went. We started talking after she saw me feeding scraps to a stray cat near the warehouse dumpster. "You've got a soft spot," she said, eyeing the cat. "That's good." I didn't know then that she was talking about more than the cat. Clara wasn't loud. She wasn't flashy. But she was the kind of woman who looked you in the eye and meant it. She didn't care about drama or gossip. She liked fishing, crossword puzzles, and grilling salmon on cedar planks. First time she invited me over for dinner, she asked if I liked food spicy or safe. I told her I'd take my chances, and she laughed like she'd known me 10 years. We didn't rush anything. I was careful this time, not out of fear, but out of respect. For myself. For her. For what we were trying to build. There were no games, no guesswork. Just 2 people walking side by side, learning how to be good to each other without dragging old ghosts along. One afternoon, in early spring, she surprised me with plane tickets. Caribbean, she said. No phones. Just beach, books, and 2 mini umbrella drinks. I didn't argue. We stayed in a small bungalow on the edge of the island, where the sand felt like sifted flour and the water was clear as glass. We spent our days sunburned and barefoot, swimming, laughing, and trading stories over grilled pineapple and local rum. I hadn't felt that light in years. On our 3rd night, Clara took a picture of us at sunset, me in a loose shirt and straw hat, her in shades and a big grin. We were holding margaritas, our feet buried in the warm sand. I didn't think twice when she posted it on her page. Didn't even know she had followers. But back home, that picture hit like a cannon. Word came through mutual friends. Apparently, Emily saw it. Someone said she was at a wine bar with a couple coworkers when it popped up on her feed. They said she went pale first, then red. Started mumbling something under her breath. By the time the check came, she was crying into her sleeve, ranting about betrayal and how fast people move on. Someone even claimed she knocked a wine glass off the table by accident. I don't know if that part's true, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't smile at the image. I wasn't out for revenge. I didn't need her to fall apart. I just needed her to know that I didn't stay broken, that I didn't stay stuck in the stories she tried to write for me. She chose her road. I chose mine. And my road led to a beach, a good woman, and a margarita with just the right kick of lime. That night, Clara leaned over in her hammock, bumped my arm with her foot, and said, "You ever think about how far you've come?" I nodded. Every day. We didn't say much after that. Didn't need to. The waves spoke loud enough. So that's where I left it. Not with bitterness, not with anger, but with peace. Real peace. Because life doesn't end when someone walks out on you. Sometimes, that's when it finally begins. Share your thoughts in the comments. How would you feel if someone else moved into your home while you were away? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.